What's up, everybody? Thralls of Metal here. I'm Jammin' John.
I'm Shred Lord.
McRock Nick.
And we are bringing you another album review. This time the album is Humanity's Last Breath with their latest release, Välde? Vald?
It's Swedish. There's umlauts.
It's got an umlaut.
Ola England, how you say this, please?
This came out on the 12th of February on Unique Leader Records. It's been formed in 2009 in Sweden. This is their fourth full-length, and they feature members from Välde, which they definitely share a lot of ties with, and In Reverence, which I think is an absolutely awesome, atmospheric death metal band, too.
Band.
Solid band. And I believe the only lone original member left is guitarist Buster Oldholm? Oldholm? I don't know.
Oldholm. Buster Oldholm.
I'm just relieved that there are Busters in other countries, because Busters seem like kind of an American thing. So, yeah.
Like Buster Bluth.
Or Buster Brown, or...
Buster Douglas.
Buster Douglas.
Come on, man.
Good one.
Come on.
This band is kind of hard to categorize. I've heard pretty much progressive deathcore. I've heard, of course, gent, because you get a lot of the genty riffs. And I've even heard, progressive death metal. There's elements of blackened death metal in here, so... This band is kind of a hodgepodge, but I would say deathcore is still kind of the main sound. It's just adventures around a lot.
I actually have never heard a single thing from these guys, so I had zero idea what to expect, and I think that shows in my review, as you'll see as we go along. So, yeah, let's continue forth, and let's see what we thought about the album, shall we?
Well, right away we get an instrumental, Dodsden. There's an umlaut there, too, of course, Sweden. Dissonance drumming into blasts and stomps, and Jesus, this production is heavy. I don't know if there are 7, 8, or 9 strings to that guitar, but that tone is low.
How low can you go? It does sound immaculate production-wise.
Now, usually their production anyway is pretty solid. I've never had any qualms with Humanity's Last Breath production-wise.
The drums, I think, sound
drums are huge. Huge. It sounds like when he hits his toms, it sounds like he's striking kettle drums with a sledgehammer.
Yeah.
That guy might be the hero of the album. His drumming, with as many fucking breakdowns as this band likes to do, that guy must be one of the most precise motherfuckers out there.
Yep.
A human metronome.
Dude. Yeah, the drums are disgusting on this record.
I'm not sure there's actually a snare in this or someone just repeatedly firing a shotgun. Now that goes into Glutton, the first, I guess, real track on here. It's pretty much exactly what I expected from Humanity's Last Breath. It is breakdown savvy. It is breakdown savvy across this album.
Breakdown City.
Breakdown Township, Breakdown County, the state of Breakdown.
Breakdown City.
In the kingdom of Breakdown.
Where the player makes the rules at Breakdown City.
And the player loves breakdowns. Polyrhythmic, big, chunky riffs, and the riffs on here are interesting. These guys favor the chug for the most part. They love that big open chord chug, and they love putting weird effects and squeals and tags.
Yes, they love their studio magic sprinkling in, which isn't a bad thing, but they use it a lot as part of their element, for sure.
But it's less robotics than the last record. I remember when we reviewed the last album, our biggest complaint was just robotic noises everywhere. Less on this. Yes,
there's definitely
studio sprinkling of sound.
Less, yes. Studio best.
I would say the one thing that stands out here as an improvement is the overall atmosphere on the album.
Mm-hmm.
This sounds really full. It isn't just empty chugs and robotic squeals. There's generally a layer of some sort of dissonance going on. There's whether it's a tremolo little thing or just a synth hum in the background,
or the orchestrals
effects on the guitar.
Yep.
You know,
and there are some neat effects.
Heavily seasoned album for sure, as far as effects go, but they made it work to their advantage. And honestly, some of the favorite parts of this album are when it slows down and you get to hear more of that background stuff coming through. So
I'm a big sucker for groove, and when these guys hit a groove, it's nice. It's really solid, but it's
so short-lived.
Short-lived.
Yes.
So short-lived.
Yep.
That was kind of a complaint about the previous album. I think they're better about it on this album is when they latch onto something, they don't latch onto it very long. They're on to the next part. It's kind of like an ADD sort of metal thing. We have so many ideas, we want to get them all, and they kind of get distracted and move on to the next point. This is a bit better about it. And I think they actually give the songs like a little bit of breathing space. It doesn't come off as much of a clusterfuck of breakdowns, which I think the last album was a little bit.
Yes. Yeah.
And the fact, again, that atmosphere is there. And I have to say, like, I really enjoyed the more blackened death metal sections on here. Hayden and Futility, in particular, I think these two songs latch on to, like, the death metal side. Hayden's intro riff actually kind of reminds me of Immolation, except maybe a little genty. So, genty Immolation. I don't really know how that necessarily works, but the riff construction is very old school death metal, just with sort of like a new school sort of
I think you wanted
feel.
an excuse just to rub your nipples, but that's me.
He probably wanted to rub his nipples. No kink shaming on this channel.
None. Don't do it.
Those two songs in particular I like because they really stood out amongst the mix. They weren't as focused on the breakdowns. It was actually more about like riffs. And you actually hear the drummer like kind of venture out of the polyrhythmic breakdowns, which he's great.
Oh my
He's great at
God,
everything on this, let's be honest.
His blast beats are tight and precise. His kick speed is insane. His cymbal work during the blasts really makes each section kind of unique. Good job.
I think the death metal sections and the blackened death metal sections really kind of like shine there. There's a bit on Spectre too that really just brings in some atmospheric like black metal parts. There's even like some keyboards layering it. And the keyboards are, I don't know, I mean, I wouldn't call it keyboards or synths. There's definitely effects going on, like a choir or string effects, just kind of give it the big epic
Might
moments.
just be a synth pad with programmed sounds.
Whatever it is,
it's good.
It's cool. Yeah, Spectre had more of like a Gojira feel to it at times. Like Gojira meets the Faceless around like Planetary Duality.
The clean vocals are... It's kind of hit or miss with me. Sometimes they kind of come off a little flat. They're always very processed. So, I mean, that's kind of a knock I make on there because there's so many filters on there. It doesn't feel like natural. But there are parts where it really works, like the song Tide. The whole end of that song...
I love that song.
...sounds like a Devin Townsend sort of thing.
Very killer.
Big, cinematic, epic. I mean, it really leads in. It builds up really strong. Probably one of the biggest standout moments on here, I think.
Absolutely. And then... prior to that, you get the big No More Tears Ozzy era meets Lord of the Rings, and that was pretty fucking cool, to be honest. So that's a favorite part of it.
I wrote soundtrack sounds on the moor.
Frodo and Samwise getting picked up on the slopes of Mount Doom. Look, Frodo, there's an eagle. It's Gandalf.
If Peter Jackson really wanted to impress me, he would have ended the movie with the logical closing point.
Brickin'.
That's all I'm going to say.
Brickin'.
Now, a really interesting song on this album is one of the instrumentals. I'm going to slaughter it. I don't give a shit. I'm sorry. Valdette. It has a very interesting string section. It's very somber and moody.
Yep.
They did a great job of adding the drums and guitars the way they did.
I like that.
I do like that where it came in, yep.
Yeah, it was very well constructed. They had the, what I referred to as, we all have our own version of this, but it was like the cyber elephant noise for me.
Cyber T-Rex.
I said Cyber Rex, and the Cyber Rex is fighting the Transformers.
The cyberpunk war horns are calling. Download speeds are up.
Whatever it is, it worked, and it was actually really, really cool. There's 2 instrumental tracks on here, and both of them are pretty solid.
And have Swedish names with umlauts. Those are important. Now, I do have some gripes. I mean, this album is Breakdown City. If you love breakdowns, you'll absolutely love it.
You're going to adore it.
It's a little repetitive, and that kind of makes songs run together. And the thing that drove me nuts, and that's particularly on the song Sirens, is, my God, the starting and stopping just drove me nuts. It takes me out of a groove every time.
Yeah, like, I understand it could be there, instead of having to deal with transitions, as there are so many different parts to this song, I could see where maybe they were thinking making it a little bit easier. But seriously, it starts and stops like 7 times, and it kills the song.
It's the fade in and fade out. It goes right back into it, and it just kind of drove me nuts. I think it started and stopped like 6 times.
Yep.
That's too much, especially for a song I think that's around like 4 minutes. And then the other complaint is some songs ended too early. Futility. I love that track.
Yep. I think that's a great song. It had cattle decapitation moments in it.
Dude, it had like epic, like kind of black metal, feels to it. And then it just kind of cuts out, and it cuts out in such a way where the vocals are still going. Like, oh, he's got more to say. I was like, nah, he doesn't have to say anything.
We're out of studio time. Roll that fader down.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much, because that's what it sounded like.
The entire time I was thinking, man, you could have like found a way to like, let him finish that line and then just kind of like fade out on the instrumental section. And then the same thing with Dehumanize, which, again, it fades out on actually a really cool moment where it really feels like it's building towards something. And it even has cleans. It's kind of epic. The cleans actually kind of work there a bit. And it just decides to quit. I don't know. I think maybe they cram too many ideas in some songs and they just kind of choose to let other ideas kind of die out. Dehumanize has an intro on it that just seems to take forever, almost to the point where it's unnecessary because it does like a big fade into a big growl to kick off the song. So, I don't know. There's just parts on here that just drove me nuts in terms of like the mixing and setting this up and everything. Like, why end it there? And it felt like there was more song. And again, if you're building towards something and it has that feel, keep going. Like, get to a logical conclusion.
Yeah, I mean, that did irk me. This album really is monumentally heavy in all aspects.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Vittring, the last track. My God, it's like Meshuggah and Godflesh had a fiercely ugly baby, and it taught it how to gent. It's so heavy and chuggy. It has this weird kind of scraping to the pick. It almost sounds like the top string of the guitar is about as thick as a hemp rope. And
it probably is.
It's just disgusting.
If it's an 8 or a 9-string guitar, it probably is.
Actually,
yeah. I mean, it's great because it keeps building tension. There's this tribal rhythm. It follows this syncopated chug. They have these whispered vocals that create its own atmosphere. It sounds creepy. And it keeps building on this moment. Rather than, kind of pull those knee-jerk shifts, it just keeps pummeling and then slowly sort of peppers in different stuff before it actually changes. So it gives the whole section time to breathe before moving into another section, and then lets that one roll too. Awesome song. I think it's probably possibly my favorite one on there as a whole because, I mean, I love Futility, but you cut it off at the nuts at the end. Vittring, I want to hear more like that because that is absolutely heavy and oppressive and everything.
I'm going to be honest. I'm going to give this 3.5 stars. I dug this record actually a whole lot more than the last release. Although it does have attention deficit disorder moments, they're less than what they used to be. The transitions are a little bit more cohesive. The song flows a little bit nicer. I like the elements they're adding in, like blackened death metal. It's in there. Tech death. There's all sorts of atmosphere that doesn't just dry hump one effect. So yeah, I think this was a great album.
Never heard this band before, didn't know what to expect. This happens to me a lot as I get pulled into some of these and break out of the comfort zone. So I try to grade it on not only how I enjoyed it, but how well it's executed within the genre, right? Because even if I don't personally like something, it could still be really, really good. It's subjective. So with that being said, and that was my grading curve, I wouldn't have been opposed to giving this album maybe a 4 out of 5 to begin with, but due to issues of some repetitiveness and not allowing a little bit more groove, which falls into my personal taste, not allowing parts to breathe a little bit more is going to knock it down to 0.5 point, but still a very solid album. And I'm sure, once again, if you're a metalcore dude or someone who lives and breathes for the breakdown, then this album is going to be absolutely 100%
because there are nasty breakdowns.
I am also going to give it 3.5 stars. I see improvement, and that's like one of the big things. Like the last album I liked, but again, it kind of needed a little bit of focus. There's more focus on here, more atmosphere by far. The production, I think, is much bigger, and the atmospheric moments really kind of stood out. And, it's mostly just the fact that it kind of gets lumped together. The songs kind of run into one another because there are so many breakdowns. It is populated mostly by breakdowns. But those moments that step outside when they're really good and they let them carry on, they're really good. I'd just like to see them maybe do a little bit more of that and sort of like make the breakdowns more special that by not doing them all the time.
There were definite hooks in here, though, too.
Oh, yeah.
There are definitely
100%.
Memorable moments that you can easily pick out and go, okay, that was on blah, blah, blah.
And that's what we're pining for more of.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm not like against breakdowns at all. I like them, but I like them a little bit more periodically, not so close together, because you just kind of get lost in the breakdowns too much. But I, again, see improvement, and I got to give them a little bit better score than I gave last time, which I think I gave the last one 3 stars. So yeah, you moved up a little bit, and this is a pretty solid album. I'll definitely jam it again.
Yeah.
Well, that brings us to the end. Time for us to go, and parting is such sweet sorrow. But before we do, we have a couple small requests. The first being, please, if you like what you saw here, hit the like and subscribe button, because it only takes about 3 seconds and it means a lot to us. So we appreciate that. Plus, it allows you to be a part of this community, and you can also keep that bell on for notifications, because we put out content pretty much on the daily. So you'll be notified of when your favorite group, Thralls of Metal, drops a brand new video for you to feast your eyes upon. Also, don't forget that at 4,500 subscribers, we are doing yet another giveaway. Thank you so much for supporting us. Thank you for anyone new who comes into the channel and becomes part of the community. We love every single one of you. And that's all I really have to say about that, Forrest Gump style. So, I'm Shred Lord once again, and on behalf of the Thralls of Metal, we wish you adieu.